Heyo! Today I'll be showing you how the level generator works in Wrath of the Roothless. It is based on random generation and follows a sort of narrative as it does so. The way it achieves so goes as follows. We're gonna make a red thread. The red thread consists of a few things. We have to choose which room types we will be supporting this generation, as well as in which order they come, and how many rooms of each type we want. Then we gotta choose how many side threads to add and how big they need to be. Then we move to room shape and size determination. The red thread gives us a number of rooms we need to place. In the shape size determinator, we choose precisely that for each single room, what shape they need to be and how big. The shapes come from a list of available shapes. These are 2D spline model. They get deformed and made more chaotic than their original setup. This will hopefully make each room feel more natural and interesting, as no two rooms will ever be the same. Next up is creating the level path. Ambitious goals when I started this generator involved creating a script that would make a cool level spline on which to place the room. Now, however, I've manually created a list of available splines, one of which gets chosen for this generation. Some deviation occurs on it, for example mirroring it or rotating it. When we've got the path, we need to start placing rooms on it. Each of the rooms needs to be placed somewhere on the path. We start with placing the start and end rooms. We calculate how much space we need to put rooms in, and how much distance then is needed between each room's center. Side threads get placed right after the main ones, and for a final nicety, each room gets rotated a little bit. When rooms have been placed, we need to connect them all together. For this, we turn to the spline tunneler. The script is responsible for connecting each room together. How it works is that it grabs the level spline, it blows up the thickness of the line, we check which tiles fall within this thick line, and we write those down. When the spline tunneler is done, we turn over to the next step in the pipeline, which is to place terrain tiles and put structures in place. The spline tunneler already has a small say in where to put tiles, but the rooms get the first pick. So they will write down where they want their tiles and tile types to be. The spline tunneler then adds his tiles on top of that, and with a bit of smart logic asks what type each tile must be, so we don't get muddy floors and dried out grass areas. After the terrain tiles, we grab structures we want to place, like the entrance teleporter or God Favor ruins. These structures can have their own flooring tiles. These will override the tiles that are already present. Next, we also decorate the place a bit with stuff like trees, grasses and rocks. Next, we've got to make sure the terrain looks good. The edges between terrain tiles are pretty harsh and square looking if you just leave them how they are. I don't like the way that looks, so we bitmask the terrain. Bitmasking is a term in this context used to make pretty edges between terrain types. The generator goes over each tile, finds out where a tile borders a different tile type, figures out which terrain type lies on top of the other, and with a bit of math calculates what kind of relation these spots have. This is called a bitmask. We look at which sprite relates to this bitmask value and place it, finally resulting in some nice edges. Then it's time for enemies to be placed. We go over each room, we determine based on the room type what types of enemies should spawn. Based on the room size, we determine how many enemies should spawn. Then we put the enemy spawners in place. We provide them with the enemy type we want them to spawn, and we move on. Then it's time for the final step, called the world constructor. It kicks in and starts by first placing all the terrain tiles, including the nice edges we determined earlier. It goes over each structure we want to place and puts them in their spot. Then finally it turns to the enemy spawners and tells them to spawn their enemy. Then we prepare the camera, the teleporters, and the other fancy graphics we need, for example the teleporter beam. At this point the minimap generator also kicks in. Once the world constructor believes it is done, it will signal the game to go get the player. And players are let loose in the world. Thanks for watching. I've been David from DCAT Games. Hope I was able to teach you something or at least inspire. Thanks and goodbye.